Morning everyone, my name is Teo Hui Zi and my matching number is 287063, and today I will be talking about online teaching is a bad idea. Before I want to start my speech, I would like to ask a simple question to all the audience. How do you feel when you're sitting in front of the laptop and listening to the lecturer or the teacher teach for 6 hours straight? And for sure, you will lose your focus of what the lecturer is teaching and you feel sleepy at the same time. The student with great number of online courses also reported that less exposure to effective teaching practice and lower quality of interaction. The relationship between this engagement indicator and the percentage of class taken online suggests that an online environment might benefit certain type of engagement, but may be somehow deterrent to others. Thus, the disadvantage of online learning are lack of face-to-face communication. Online learning also means more screen time, and online learning requires self-discipline. And let's start with the first main point, which is online learning lack of face-to-face communication. Why do I say online learning lack of face-to-face communication? Because based on the research by Petcher and Mayer B in 2010 from Australian University, they do a sample of 2,196 students was conducted, and they favor face-to-face communication for communication. Face-to-face learning for communication goals such as developing an understanding or establish interpersonal relationship and especially significant finding concerns student judgment of their learning achievement. During the pandemic period, it's undeniable that students would have less interaction between their friends and teachers. This will surely reduce their productivity and understanding the topic that the lecturer or teacher teach because student can't communicate effectively when doing online class compared to physical class as it is very less efficient to ask you question that you don't understand online compared to physical. And I would like to give you an example that when you ask a question physically to the lecturer or teachers, the lecturer and teachers can answer you straight away because when you are in a physical class, you can directly ask them, and this would be a very efficient way for teacher to teach their student for their topic that are not understand compared to e-learning as teacher would tend to use WhatsApp or WeChat because when you're using online learning, it will take a time for the lecturer to send back the answer or the topic that you don't understand to explain it in more detail. So I would think that online learning is a bad way of teaching compared to physical learning. And I would like to give another article from M. Alamawani. Online communication with students need a little bit more effort and organization than traditional communication with students because online environment lack of body language and because in a physical environment, we used to be using body language to present our slide physically as this will let people to understand what we as a student want to deliver as important clue would be found when you are using body gesture, right? When you are in an online environment, it will be tough for people to understand what we want to deliver as we depend on voice and writing. In an e-learning session, it will be challenging to conduct effective two-way communication compared to physical learning session because when you are in a physical lesson, you will be tending to use more body gesture and you will be getting people to know what you are talking about by using effective body gesture compared to online learning because when you are in online learning, body gesture would be a very hard because people only see your body gesture through virtual compared to physical way of doing learning, right? And without sufficient body gesture in online learning, right? This will surely makes the student lack of participation during online lesson. And student will surely lose focus during online classes and lack of confidence when answering a specific subject question. And that's the first disadvantage of online learning. And now let's move on to the second disadvantage of online learning, which is more screen time. And according to an article from Ernest S.K. Wong, researchers finding have indicated that screen usage harm the brain development and well-being of our younger generation. This is because that children in an online learning environment might face development delay as they are facing the laptop throughout the day. And more screen time during online learning will be significant impact the learning process and be a barrier to academic success, right? And another exciting research by the National Institute of Study has shown that the children spending 2 hours of screen time have lower thinking skill and language processability. And this will surely diminish the development of children if the children required to do online learning with an excessive amount of time. And I will give another article from Karen D. Souza, an expert in child development, agreed that increased screen usage can lead to increased emotional vulnerability in children. And children will interact less with the outside world, reducing their motivation and limiting their imagination. Children would lack of curiosity as they couldn't see the world outside as their learning are all online and they are restricted from going out. And I want to give an example here because when we are a children, we are not able to go out to see the outside world, and this will actually reduce our IQ and EQ in our brain because we can't go and be very curious about what the outside world doing because we are stuck inside the home during the pandemic period, and this will surely diminish our productivity and efficiency of our brain development. And children have to face the computer or TV for an extended period, and this will surely make the children socially isolated as they become addicted due to the excessive screen time during the pandemic period. And due to this, they will not have the necessary social skill for them to interact with the people. And why do I say so? Because as a human being, when we are doing something that we like, when we are using our smartphone, we will tend to be addictive for not saying children. As a human being and an adult, we will be also addicted to screen time. And I would say this because screen when you're using gadgets, it will be very addictive, right? And when children face emotional vulnerability, this will undoubtedly lead to an increase in mental health illness that would be dangerous for their well-being. And let's continue to the third disadvantage of online learning, that is requires self-discipline. And why do I say online learning requires self-discipline? Because from that article from Gobornos in 2016, online students are expected to be acquainted with all course material, adhere to time limitation, and complete all required work. And this will surely instill self-discipline in the student during online learning as they tend to lose focus when attending online learn education. This is because online learning is so much different compared to physical learning as students would need to follow the teacher instruction in the class or else the teacher will punish them during physical class, right? Compared to online virtual class, I don't think teacher have a way to punish the student because in the virtual world, it will be very hard for the teacher or the lecturer to punish their student compared to physical class because physical class, when the student who didn't follow the lecturer instruction, this was surely being punished by the lecturer or the teacher. And this will surely bring more productivity in the children in the physical way of learning, right? In an online learning, there would be no contact person who guide the student during the class because when in online learning, right, student would be distracted when on or attending online learning. And because online learning tend to be boring compared to physical classes, as physical classes is more appealing compared to online learning. And online learning will lead to students having to be more often their own discipline as they need to plan ahead of time so that their task is organized. And in my opinion, this would mean that students compile with their self-discipline, although nothing guide them to self-discipline. And I would think it would be very hard for them to guide because it will be hard for them because students need someone to guide them toward their task as they are young and lack of discipline to do anything for themselves. I would mean that if the student is intelligent or and self-disciplined without guidance, then I would think nobody would no student would need to attend the school, right? Because when you're intelligent enough and you are self-disciplined enough, you will not go to school as you can become a very high quality people because students are really lack of self-discipline and intelligence, and they need to go to school because they need to establish and develop their thinking way and etc. And that's all for the third point. And in conclusion, it's undeniably that online learning is a bad idea for students. As I mentioned before, the disadvantage of online learning are e-learning lack of face-to-face communication, e-learning means more screen time, and e-learning requires self-discipline. As the world is rapidly changing in the modern era, I would still fully take my stand that online learning cannot be compete with the real thing that is physical learning. Because I would think that both government leaders and school administrator should recognize that the value of in-person teaching is much more valuable compared to online learning. I will hereby end my speech. Thank you.